Some of you may remember this. I like to do it every year around this time of the year because as fall rolls around, we definitely do have more and more allergies that happen. But why? Why do you think it would even affect your balance? So, what happens, right, when you have things that are causing you allergies, which we will get to in a little bit, is when you get the allergies, you're sensitive to something, whether it may be food or at this time of the year, you have leaves and grass, and that's what it is. And in the springtime, of course, you have the pollen as well. But what happens? So you're starting to get congested, your sinuses fill up. But why do you think that's going to directly affect your balance? So let's go back to our sinus cavity, our nasal passages, and where the sinuses are. So we have these cavities, and I have pictures, but I'm not doing the PowerPoint presentation today. So if any of you want it, just let Courtney know, and she's happy to, I know, just post it or email it to you personally. So we have these cavities around our nasal passages and through our face, and also that go behind the eyes. And doesn't that make sense? Because when our sinuses kick in, a lot of us feel that pressure, that we call it that sinus pressure. And that happens to always happen right behind the eyes or right around this area. And you also can get headaches. So when those fill up, yes, we feel those symptoms. Yes, we're sneezing and we have those pressure headaches. But why is it affecting our ears, right? And what happens when the ears are affected is going to continually affect our balance. And you all know that from my previous talks. We've spoken about how our ear canal affects our balance. So we're going to go over that a little bit, then we'll go back to our sinuses, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we can do, and we'll go from there. So our ear canal, right, we have the eustachian tube, we have a canal that goes into our inner ear, and then we, of course, have our outer ear. Well, within our inner ear, we have these little tiny, tiny hair-like structures called cilia, and they move around, and they actually let our brain know where we are. So if I start to lean, I'm going to pull this out for just a minute. If I'm standing here and I start to lean this way, so the reason my brain knows that, oh, I'm going this way, I need to do something, is those cilia-like hair are just moving around very, very tiny in like tiny-like fashion, and it's telling my brain that, oh, hey, you're going too far, you're off that center of gravity, you're off your center of balance, you really need to pull back, which is great, and that's how we stay within balance, within our center of gravity. But let's say that we are so congested and we're starting to get fluid into our ear where those hair-like structures can't function as they should. So if I'm going this way and I'm not really feeling it, I'm not getting those senses, those neurons kicking in saying, hey, you're going too far and you're starting to lose your balance. That's in part how our balance is affected when we have sinus issues. There are a couple of things that I want to go over before we get um, into the causes of and what we can do about sinus pressure. Is when you or your partner or your family have a sinus infection. Why do we say, get your rest, get something to clear that up? Is as that clears up, you're not walking around in what we call that fog. So you've had it, right? You have a sinus infection, you get really, really foggy, and you just kind of feel like you're walking in this cloud. And that's also affecting your balance. So when you're walking around with that sinus infection, what ends up happening is your brain, your fog brain, as they call it, which is not an actual medical term, you're not able to walk. Your depth perception is off. So if you're walking outside and suddenly there's a slight step up or there's a bump in the street or the curb, you're not really quite seeing that, and then you're going to end up falling. So that's another way that your balance is also affected. So what can you do about that? What are items that you can use? So we've gone over this before. Clearly, antihistamines, if you can take those, nasal sprays, neti pot. Now, I put neti pot in. Some of you are already familiar with that, but it's a really good natural way of clearing your sinuses. Now, will the neti pot cure your sinuses? It will not, But as you have all, as we call the gunk in there, that's a good way for us to cleanse it out and to sort of free our sinus cavities and all the way back to the ear just to get some of that out. And when that pressure decreases, the amount of the fluid in there that decreases, it helps our inner, excuse me, inner canal, inner ear, excuse me, to function correctly. And put this right back. All right. So the other thing, of course, that can help are just some simple balance exercises. Take care of that sinus infection first, obviously, or decrease that sinus pressure. But we did that balance talk last month, and you remember that. I want you to do these balance exercises when you're having sinus issues, all with your eyes open, none with your eyes closed, because it's too much of a stress on your system to recognize when you are falling over. So eyes open. Same thing, you guys know that you're marching in place, you're moving from side to side, moving forwards and backwards. As you let your arms out further and further away from your body, that's going to challenge your balance more. I do want to talk about one other thing. And a lot of times, some of you have vertigo, have had a history of vertigo. A lot of times what happens when you get a sinus infection is it can actually trigger your vertigo to come back. So do remember that when you're feeling that dizziness, you have to think, is it just a balance issue or am I having actual vertigo symptoms? So vertigo, remember, it's when you are having when you are performing positional changes. So if you're going from lying down to sitting up, if you're going from sitting to standing, that's when you're going to feel like, oh, I'm really off kilter. And with vertigo symptoms, most of my patients, what the phrase they use is, I'm not spinning, but it feels like the world around me is spinning. So just remember that if you've had that feeling, you clearly know that you might be having vertigo. Many times with vertigo during this season, we'll actually recommend, rather than doing therapy first or the vertigo exercises, is get on the antihistamines. And once you get that cleared up, that might just make your vertigo go away.